It's quite good. Yeah, absolutely. Hey everyone, my name is Ishwar. I'm the founder of Unsolved, and we are here today in a cracker of a session. We are expecting some crazy insights on gamification. I think the holy grail of startups itself is not really acquisition, monetization, etc. Right? I mean, it's really retention. And we thought, what better than talk to Prateek and Ajay. Prateek is building a startup in the gamification space. Ajay has been a product professional pretty much, for I don't know how many years now. He's the chief product officer at Prusite, right? He's been a IoT entrepreneur. He's been all of that, right? So I think, and Prateek has been building customer glue now, I think for about 4 years. Is that what you said, Prateek, about that period of time? So that's a lot of insight that we're going to get on gamification, on users coming back. I'm sure they've run case studies. They can rattle off things that have worked and that have not as well, right? I mean, all of us start with hypothesis. So I'm going to hand over the stage to Ajay now. Ajay and Prateek will take over and have this cracker of a conversation while I, for a change, will hang out in the audience and kind of absorb what they're saying. And hopefully just play a slightly different role here, just ask some questions and chill while they face the hot seat and answer them, right? So that's over to you guys. I'm gonna gradually just head out of here, right? So I don't think I can actually leave the stage. Oh, that's interesting. Because
Uh, You can join the panel as well.
okay, let me join the panel. Sure.
Okay.
Over to you, Ajay. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome, Prateek, for this session. So, just to give everyone a background, Prateek is an entrepreneur who runs Customer Glue. So, Customer Glue is a digital gamification product where any product can actually incorporate Customer Glue and create a lot of gamified experiences for their customers. So today, the discussion is more about understanding gamification as a feature. Is gamification relevant in the app ecosystem? What are the perks of including gamification within the app, and how it kind of helps companies or any apps to basically improve their retention or any of their user management scores. So over with that introduction, I will probably ask Prateek to give a small introduction, and then we'll probably talk about a few topics related to gamification today.
Right. So thanks, Ajay and Ishwar, for having me today on the session. It's great to speak about gamification. Just to give a little bit of background, right? So back in college, so I graduated in 2016, and even during my college, I was into building games, specifically level design. And one of the most specific things when you do any sort of level design is what should you do so that user is always trying to achieve the next objective or get to the next milestone, right? For example, when you play the game of Mario, you want to complete the level. At times, people want to get all the coins. They want to kill all the birds and all those animals on the stage so that they can go to the next level. And then there are certain hidden surprises. There are those pipes which you enter, which not everyone knows about. There are those one-ups which not everyone knows about. And these are the things which create those moments. These are the things which engage the users with the psychologies, different psychologies, which have been fairly understood. There has been a lot of research in this space. And that is what people are exploiting today or using today in the world of digital marketing. And that's what we're doing today with Customer Glue. Right. And we have been on it for over 4 years. Though Customer Glue in its current form has been live for over a year now, where we started, and the core problem statement was there are so many offers in this world, but not many people are using them. And just to give some numbers around it, you will be shocked to know that 60% of promotions budget, which is around 360 billion worth, $360 billion worth of offers, they go unused every single year, right? Which is a lot of money. And at the same time, there are around 88% of users who try to search for an offer before making a purchase. And what this tells us is that there are users who want to look, they look for an offer, but they don't get one. At the same time, there are offers out there in the world which no one wants to use. For example, points, right? I mean, there are so many applications out there who are using point-based systems. There are so many applications out there who are using badges. But why they don't lead to conversion, and that's a big problem. And that is what we are beginning to solve with Customer Glue today.
Interesting. So with customer glue also, you're tackling the problem at a product level, but fundamentally, how do you explain gamification for any entrepreneur? I mean, like what is gamification? Are they asking users to engage with the product in a gamified way, or they are playing with other users? How do you put it out to any entrepreneur who wants to implement gamification as a feature within the product?
Right. So, I'll begin with an antithesis, and there is a big difference between a game and gamification. So, let's say putting a bubble shooter on a particular mobile application is not gamification. Where let's say somebody can come in and play bubble shooter to win a reward is not gamification. It could be in some dimension, but that is like way too extreme and usually doesn't work. What we have seen, what works best is to create a hook cycle where, and I'm sure you must have come across this term, and I'm sure you must have read these books like Hook by Ni Real, where they talk about a user must perform an action and you reward them for the right action. For example, let's say if you're an e-commerce store, uh, when the user enters your store for the very first time, what do you show them so that they actually go to the next step, which is, let's say you show them maybe a flash sale, you show them something like, hey, no, there is a massive drop, there's a massive deal going on right now, there is 80% off on this mobile device just for you for the next 5 minutes, why don't you grab it right away? The user clicks on that, right? So this is what gamification is all about, where you want to achieve the desired behavior and you reward the user for the right behavior.
Yeah. So there is an action from the user, and the app technically responds with a reward, or again a response which again creates a new action or kind of promotes a new action within the platform, right?
Right.
And there can be multiple rewards. I mean, when I say reward, it can be a direction, or it can be a new action. It can be a new feature altogether where they get access to. And so that the entire system of gamification kind of focus on engaging with the user continuously. So why is it important? I mean, basically, why is it important to kind of react or kind of create scenarios where users are engaged? Why do we need to
Right.
have that system?
Right. So, let me bring an example from the market that we are all looking at. So, let's say Google Pay, right? And there's just so many payments applications in our country. And Google Pay is standing out to be a clear winner amongst the many others. And the clear reason is because what they have done, and when they launched, they started this thing where whenever you make a transaction via Google Pay, you end up getting a scratch card. Majority of the times, the scratch card would not lead to any reward. It would say better luck next time. And most of the users now, they don't even care for that. But that is something which evokes this psychology of variable reward, where the maximum dopamine in our brains is released in anticipation of the reward rather than when we actually get the reward. And that's the reason why users want to chase that. Similarly, there is another example. Let's say you must have heard about this thing called as Saat Pe Saat So, right? I mean, Paytm runs this thing where you complete 7 recharges or you 7 payments on a petrol pump, then you will get maybe a 700 rupees cashback. You stand a chance. It's not a guaranteed reward. You will not definitely not get it, but there's a chance that you might end up getting it. And users like to complete that sequence because inherently our ancestors were hunters and gatherers. We like to chase, and there used to be these hunts where people will just run after a particular reward, which is this particular animal, which is their food, and they would try to hunt that down. And that is the innate psychology which is being used today through these applications.
Yeah. So what is the correlation you see basically between gamification and user loyalty, right?
Mhm. Right. So user loyalty is an outcome, and gamification is just one of the many means to achieve that. And to talk about it, let's say you must have heard about these systems called as point-based systems or points, badges, and leaderboards, right?
Yep.
Where let's say you have where user can accumulate points, or when they keep on transacting, or and let's say and Uber has it running in the US, right? Where they have where you continue making these rides, and you can accumulate these points. And once you reach a certain tier, then you get more perks. That's also kind of a gamification where users like to stay on that tier. Similarly, let's say if you reward somebody with the subscription, with sort of a program, sort of a loyalty program, right? I mean, many companies have memberships, like elite membership, or many companies actually have, for example, Cred, right? Cred is a closed community. Just getting into Cred is sometimes a reward, and users like to cherish that. So, kind of attacking these innate psychological behaviors where users feel cherished is sort of that white hat gamification. And then there's a whole thing about black hat gamification.
Okay. So what are the broad models you see in gamification, and what are the digital friendly gamified models which are in practice or which are used in your application product?
Right, right. So, I'll quickly share this particular graphic, and actually, everyone can look it up on the internet as well. There's something called as an Octalysis framework, and so there's this particular book called as Actionable Gamification, and this book is written by this author called Yukai Cho, and Yukai Cho talks about he's a great evangelist about gamification. He has written various books on it, and what you look at, he has devised a particular framework through various years of his experience and through various research. And what you see here is that there are these various psychologies. For example, accomplishment, where let's say once you achieve something, right? That's accomplishment. For example, if there's a leaderboard, now you're at the top of the leaderboard. That's accomplishment for you. Similarly, when we're talking about, let's say, scarcity, whenever a store says that only two more pieces remaining, buy now, that's scarcity for you. Similarly, there is social influence, right? And I'm sure a lot of us have played these games like Dota, and there are many people who just buy these skins in the game, right? Which don't really impact the game itself, gameplay itself, but they buy these skins in the game. Because you want the character to look like as if you have created it, and that's when they're evoking ownership. You're creating your own avatar inside the game. And similarly, I know I'll talk about a feature which one of these fashion applications had. What they did was they launched a wardrobe feature where users can essentially buy products and they can create their own wardrobe. So essentially, they try to evoke ownership there. So this is the core model. I think this one thing which I've come across is it encompasses a lot of different gamification models, and I think this is one thing which most of the companies can begin doing something about.
Interesting. So now, out of these eight dimensions you talked about, eight categories within that, there are multiple techniques where a user, where an application can actually incorporate these. Do you see applications using one piece of scarcity, one piece of ownership, one piece of empowerment? Is that the model you see with successful apps? You using gamification, or how do these companies tackle this? Or they just focus on one category? Okay, I'll only create scarcity and try to create user engagement, retention, whatever my goal be based on that. How does these eight categories fit into an application?
Right, right. So yeah, I think I'll just share my screen again. So the way it works out is it's not just one or two that you have to use. It's actually generally a combination of things that you use. And let me just bring examples from the market that we're looking around us. For example, when Google Pay started this thing where in Diwali they started this thing where you could collect these stamps or these badges and you can exchange it with your friends. And that
Yeah.
whole experience went pretty viral on the internet, and there were a lot of users who were tweeting about it. They were talking about it, and that is when social influence comes into play. Similarly, you have things around, let's say, a meaning, right? A meaning of higher purpose. So when airlines ask you to add that rupees 5 extra to contribute towards your CO2 footprint reduction, that is when they're kind of attacking the whole higher purpose meaning. Similarly, when I talk about scarcity, there are companies who use these flash sales where, let's say, Flipkart's Big Billion Day, right? Where they say that there are these massive deals running only for next 2 days. Why don't you come in and buy or make a purchase today? That is scarcity for you. Similarly, there are at times when you keep browsing a particular store, what happens is you might see this pop up, and they might say that there is a massive deal for you right now, and that is unpredictability for you, where you can't predict that what's going to happen. You might end up winning a reward, which could be, let's say, things like scratch card or spin wheel. They go under the whole the unpredictable piece of it.
Yeah. So depending on the objective of how we want to engage users, we can pick these models and I kind of implement this at a product level. Or you use frameworks or products like yours to kind of embed this within the core application to drive these engagements. So
That's
now,
correct. Yeah.
what are the what are the things a company would typically miss by not doing this, right? So how do you see the difference between one company doing this versus one company not doing this?
Mhm.
What are the benefits, or how do you compare the growth metric, revenue metric, user engagement? So anything you have seen, in your experience, a company not doing it
Right.
versus a company doing it.
Right, right. So, first I'll talk about just companies doing it and not doing it, and then I'll come to the one of the real use cases we have with one of our customers.
Yeah.
And so the reason why somebody or any e-commerce or any application, let's say even if it's an application which promotes meditation or even good habits, right? Even they need to use gamification. And let me give you an example. I'm sure you must have come across this app called as Fabulous. And Fabulous is all about building great habits, right? Where and the interesting piece is they don't really give you a reward which is a monetary. They don't give you coupons. They don't give you cashbacks. But what they give you is once you complete a habit trigger, they give you this particular graphic which talks about bunch of good habits, and you can share that graphic with your friends over WhatsApp or on your social, etc. And the whole idea behind that is you can use these non-monetary rewards to drive the right behavior, which in this case, you are doing it for yourselves through this application, which is Fabulous, right? On the other hand, there are companies which are burning, billions of dollars, and they're going to waste. Let's say, and I'm sure in a day you must be receiving thousands of notifications on your phone, where they talk about there is a deal running right now on the store. Why don't you come in and make a purchase today? Why don't you use this coupon code to make your next purchase, etc. But the problem there is users don't just go ahead and make a purchase because there is a coupon. If you would have rewarded them for completing a set of activities, let's say if you ask a user to create a wish list on your e-commerce store, right? And once the users have created that wish list, and then you reward them saying, hey, on the for the top 10 products on your wish list, I'm going to give you a 5% off for your next purchase. There's a high chance that user will go ahead and make that transaction. So the whole idea is to put together a trail of breadcrumbs to lead your users to take all those breadcrumbs and eventually unveil or unlock that reward, which they can use to complete the next set of activities.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So with that, I can quickly, show one of the examples with one of our customers that we have. So we work with this company called Purple, and Purple is a beauty e-commerce application based out of India. And we started working with them quite some time ago. And one of the very first things that they launched with us was a stamp collection program. And what you're going to see here is, so in Purple's application, they place a banner. Once the user clicks on the banner, that is when the customer glue experience loads. What you're going to see here is a user interface, which is entirely loaded from Customer Glue service. And the whole idea here is that this particular reward was placed by them. Our job was to push the users to complete these various activities, like adding 5 moisturizers, browsing 10 products. Then they had certain features like watch a video on Beauty Studio, fill beauty profile, Then they had more activities like buy elite membership, etc. And once the users would complete these activities, they would end up earning these gems or these stamps, as we call it. And these stamps can later on be converted into real rewards. In this case, the user will try to complete browsing 10 products. Now, someone might ask that what is the point of just browsing 10 products? But the whole idea is that we are trying to create that whole subconscious for the attack the subconscious of the user, where if they're browsing these 10 products, tomorrow if they get an offer, they might just go ahead and make a transaction as well. Now, once a user completes
Yeah.
browsing the 10th product, what you see here is that we were able to trigger a notification and give the user an offer. Once the user clicks on this, they go back to the app again. And that's when they can see the particular reward that they have won in this case, which is, and with some confetti around it. And now the same thing can be repeated with a scratch card, with a spin wheel, and we have many such features. Now, from this particular example, some of the results that we are particularly very proud of showing are there were around 42% of users who came back on different days to complete an activity during the entire sale duration, which was 200% more than what they had seen so far with campaigns which were running without gamification, without sales which were running without any gamification. And what we had also seen was, yeah, Ajay, you want to ask a question?
No, no, I don't have anything. Go ahead.
Okay, and one of the most interesting, graphs to show here is this, where in the entire sale duration, on a daily basis, we saw an increasing number of users coming back to the app to complete more activities. Because what we did was, from the entire 15 to 20 different activities that they gave us, we started using AI to personalize a small subset of those activities, let the users complete those, and then on the next day, change the set of activities to another set of activities which they should complete. And once the user is in this challenge, they were coming back every day to complete these, earn great rewards, and then make a transaction.
Great. So in this case, the service of customer glue basically looks at all the events and kind of converts that to the business, business data, and highlights what has happened and how the customer action should be kind of rewarded. It kind of aggregates all these events and passes it across. Yeah. So are these games like pre-configured, or do customers play around creating their own flows? Because you talked about multiple models, so at a product level, when they implement, do they get a pre-pack or preset, or like a templated flow, or how does that go for a customer to implement a program like this?
Right, right. So, I'll just quickly find out the dashboard that we have, and I think that should clear things up. So we have, and of course, this is all a work in progress. So, I'm also building it out. The way it works out is that we give access to a dashboard to our customers, and what happens here is that when you click on a new campaign, you get started with. We don't ask you to choose a game. What we ask you to choose is what are you exactly looking at? Do you want to onboard your new users? You want to engage with your existing users, or do you want to increase your conversions, or do you want to increase transaction frequency, etc. Right? And once a user has chosen the right kind of program or the right kind of goal that they
Objective.
have,
Yeah.
right? That's when, let's say, you click on this, and then you can use this particular template. Then you can go ahead and customize a bunch of things about this particular template. You can change the color, you can change the look and feel of this program, you can change the text that goes around it, and then you can choose various activities, right? This is where you come in and you configure various activities that you want your users to perform. And you generally give us a large set of activities, and our job is to curate a small subset out of those. That is how we take it forward. And then once the users complete these activities, they end up winning rewards. And this is where what happens is that you can create optimized rewards where either the value could be fixed or it could be a range. And our job is to decide the right number that goes to the right user. This is how we control the cost for a particular business. So let's say if your discount range or the cashback range is anywhere between 0% to 10%, then Customer Glue might recommend 1% for one user, 2% for another user, 0% for another user, 10% for a different user. And we have a database and a knowledge base to decide these things as they come in.
Yeah. And over a period of time, these campaigns are live. It also ingests a lot of data, and you can actually recommend what kind of have worked in the past, and they can actually add more variations of the same, or more offers or rewards to the same game patterns, right? So
That's right.
that's also something that
Right.
the
So once
platform
a
enables.
user, yeah. So once you go live with a particular campaign, that's when you can also look at various reports, and through these various reports, you're able to see that how many users are entering the program, how many activities are being performed, what's exactly going on with your users, what's happening on a daily basis. How much money are you burning on these offers, and what's your budget? How and you can set different things. So this is how we try to do it, where the businesses and what we do, we essentially become that gamification partner or that gamification engine for their application. They use a dashboard and they use our customer success to run the various campaigns. Through the expertise that we have, we also try to help them figuring out what is the next set of campaigns that you can run with us to achieve the right objectives or the right goals. And that's how we keep on iterating from there.
Yeah. So hyper personalization, creating micro moments for users, all of this is part of using a gamification platform like this. But how do customers incorporate this, right? I mean, how does this fit in right inside the app? Does it require a code change always, or is it more like a one stop SDK and you control everything through the web app?
Right. So, when we got started and we realized that there are just so many SDKs out there in the world, and we realized that there's something called as SDK fatigue. Not People don't want to add more SDKs to their application. They don't want to bundle more SDKs into the app, and that's when we went ahead with the whole API first model. And today, to run any program with Customer Glue, it's very simple. And again, I can quickly show you that demo as well, where there are these set of APIs that you use, and I'll just show a small demo where once you load all the campaigns through our API calls, what you can do is essentially you can just take this endpoint and you can just populate this in any web view. And as soon as you open this particular web view, that is when the entire experience loads on your app. Now, the same thing can be loaded on your mobile application. The same thing can be loaded on your website or anywhere wherever you want to load these programs. And this is what we call as the default view or the rewards wallet view. And users can come in, they can start playing a quiz, or they can come in and use a particular scratch card. And once they do that, they can redeem the coupon. We do expose certain functions where you can bind it with your native Android or iOS applications and take users to the right places to actually make those transactions. This way, we try to keep the integration fairly simple. Like under 3 to 4 days, we're able to go live with one particular business.
Okay, so we talked about gamification, how the models and how it's incorporated in the product. So is it very specific to B2C, or is it specific to B2? I mean, is there a application or a use case for B2B as well?
Right. So we have spoken to certain businesses where, let's say, if a particular business has a large sales team, right, and they want their sales personnel to do certain things. For example, when a lead comes in, you have to place a call within the next 5 minutes and speak to them, ask them certain questions. So you can gamify that entire experience. Though we have not rolled out any such integration or any such business so far, we have been working with B2C businesses. But in terms of use cases, I think this can be expanded into HR use cases where you can reward the employees for great behavior, right? And or your sales team, or you can motivate organizations to do different things depending on the use case that you have.
Interesting. Yeah.
Let
Another
me
question
ask
is,
a question along the way. So one question that I have for you, I mean, like, let's say someone has to just get started on gamification, right, on a B2C solution. What are those steps that you recommend that you take to get started on a journey of gamification? Like, if you had to tell them this is the easiest thing that you can do, right,
Mhm.
to get started, and this works for most B2C solutions, right?
Right.
uh, what would that be? I mean, would that be, yeah, if you could kind of answer that.
Right, right. So, that's a great question. And to answer that, first identify what is the critical activity that leads to a long-term retention. And this is a simple sentence. Let me just try to explain it a bit more. Let's say you have 1,000 users. You have just launched your app, and what you have observed is 20% of users who do this activity, which is, let's say, and let's say you're a social media platform, right? And 20% of users who like a post in the first 3 days, they tend to stay or come back, 2x more than the rest of the population. If you're able to identify this particular critical activity or this critical event into your whole user journey, that is when you can start gamifying that particular step. What you can do is, let's say, you can either add a tiered based system, or you can start using certain psychologies, like, for example, create scarcity, where you can start creating a small community of users who engage or hyper engage with you on a certain time of the day, and that happens only for an hour, and you push users to do a lot more of that. But the step begins with identifying the critical activity. To be honest, anyone can begin with gamification. You don't need to add a scratch card or spin wheel always. What you can simply do is, let's say if you're a meditation application, right? Yeah, you can simply say that if you can't unlock other meditation audios unless you complete your first three meditation samples. This is a very simple way to push the users to do the right things by reducing the number of choices and eventually unlock more, and which gives a reward to them, which is non-monetary in nature. You're not burning money to do that.
Very interesting. So it's kind of it plays a role in onboarding as well, right? I mean, basically, you're saying make them perform those critical activities, and therefore, one, experience the app the way you intend for them to experience it, and yeah, and therefore, if they have completed that activity, then it's much easier for them to understand it as well. Got it.
That's correct. Yeah.
One other question I have is, why? How do you compare between build and buy, right? So, do they look at options to build this natively, or look at a SaaS platform? Or what are the trade-offs there to
Right.
implement
So I
gamification?
think yeah, I think while building SaaS, I have pondered upon this question every single day in every single sales conversation. And what has the answers that I have today, it is actually dependent a lot on a particular time to market. That is one factor. How soon a particular business can go to market, how urgent do they require a solution? That is one factor, where they're like, let's not build this, because if we build it, it'll take us 3 months to do this. Better let's buy an off-the-shelf solution and let's get started. That is one. Second factor is, what is the human resource cost of actually building it and maintaining it, right? Because it is not just building it once, but you need to keep adding these things. So with SaaS platforms, and I think we are in the golden age of SaaS, especially in India. I think a SaaS boom has already happened, and we are riding the wave in the current times. And what's beginning to happen now is, time to market is definitely very important, and businesses know that buying solution from a business to whom I just pay a fixed monthly cost or a fixed usage driven fee, and they take care of everything. I have somebody to call up if something goes down, if something is not working. I have someone to listen to me. That is, I think, a great experience, and that is where the whole thing on buying solutions off the shelf makes more sense. It makes more sense from the business owner's perspective also. For example, let's say, I'll just talk about, we are all building businesses here. We today we use Webflow to run our website, and I remember back then when we started, and we use to deploy our own Nginx server. We'll run our own websites. But today, why are we paying a third-party solution to run our website? Because simple reason is because we don't have time and bandwidth to spend on managing a non-core critical function, which is, let's say, people coming on the website. We know that if we just buy off-the-shelf solution, it'll work better. Today, we should spend our energies on fixing and focusing on our core product.
Nice, nice, nice. So I'm going to just try and also kind of look at some of the questions that we have, in the audience as well, right? So kind of open it out to them as well. So maybe we can just do a couple of more questions, maybe at 7:45, another 5 minutes. We can just open it out and allow anyone to come up. I think Kirtiman may have had some questions. Chakradhar may have had some questions. If you want, you can just come up and kind of share. And Kritiman was very interested in the whole AI auto generating activities, right? So uh, one question I have there, I mean, at many times, the kind of gamification that a certain app needs, right, may differ from another one, right? I mean, how do you kind of determine the right kind of gamification? I mean, it needn't necessarily be just points, badges, leaderboards, surprise gift, right? All of that. Like, let's say one of the gamification techniques that we attempted at Unsolved, and we kind of built it ourselves, right, was the whole reputation leaderboard, kind of mechanism, so stuff like that, right? So yeah, I mean, of course, with varying levels of success, and it interested a few folks and things like that. But how do you build that kind of customization into a solution which it may be different for different folks?
Right, right. So, that's a great question, and to answer that, the vision that we have for our platform is not limited to the things that you see today. For example, if you see a scratch card or you see a spin the wheel, that is not where we are limiting it. What we are essentially creating is a platform to bring your own games also at some point. And you can think about it, and to be honest, I don't know what it is going to evolve into, but most likely it's going to evolve into something where we will give these functions and hooks where developers can come in, and they can build their own things on top of what we have. The way we think about our platform is think about what Canva is doing today, right? And Canva is a place where anyone can go in and create any kind of creative for any kind of social media, and they have those ready-made templates. Today, we have some ready-made templates. Companies can come in and start using one of those depending on the use case. But of course, we have the flexibility where they can bring in one of their own. And in the future, we want to offer something like Glue Experts, where we have a team in house which can do these things and put it up on sort of a marketplace, and eventually have a place where companies can come in, choose the right program for their business, and they can go live with it.
Are you looking at only the template part, or are you looking at combining offers from all customers also, like gamified offers in one place, or is that going to be only the gamification models itself?
Right. So to understand the question correctly, is it about when you say rewards, does it mean things like when companies give out merchandise, or let's say,
Yeah, I mean,
or
it's more like a
uh,
coupon dunia kind of a setup. Are you looking at that space where you aggregate from all the apps which are gamifying in a single app, or you're basically looking at the models or the games as a marketplace? What you said.
Right. So we are not going to do a B2C thing. We are not going to release our own app where where users can come in and discover more coupons. That is not what we do.
Okay.
What we do is we do have a couponing infrastructure where businesses can create coupons for their own use case. They can use our infrastructure to create these different coupons for different purchases, because we started our GTM with e-commerce specifically, and then they can run these gamification layer on top of it to unlock those rewards as they keep going forward.
Okay. A lot of these entrepreneurs start with a website. So, I mean, I see a lot of the use cases on mobile. Is there something they can try with a WordPress website, or something they can just quickly get started with as gamification?
Right. We do have a Shopify integration. It's not live on the store. The reason is because we don't want to put the pricing out there. We are still discovering out our pricing model. But yeah, I mean, today installing Customer Glue is as simple as installing Google Analytics. Because we understand that companies don't have tech bandwidth, and anyone who's building SaaS will know that companies don't have tech bandwidth. Nobody wants to invest, their engineers to integrate a solution. If you can just give them a comfort of saying that, hey, have you installed GA? How easy it is. This is how you can install Customer Glue. I think that's the kind of thought process that most of the customers go ahead with. And just to add one more point there, the reason why we are being or going mobile first is because if you look at the way the world is headed, majority of the countries where internet penetration is just beginning to happen in a good way now, let's say India, Southeast Asia, right? And there, what's happening is that majority of the users, which is let's say 75 to 80% of users, are using internet on mobile devices. So the richness of data that you have on a user is a lot more, and that is what creates a lot of possibilities to do AI applications on top of the data that you can collect, which is far, far less on a desktop version of the same thing.
So some questions that are pouring in, and I would like to kind of take those also. Actually, Chakradhar is coming up, so yeah, let me just pull him up as well, and I can yeah, let's just take some questions as well now, right? Yeah, from the audience. Yeah, hey Chakradhar.
Hi, Prateek, great.
Hey, check with that. Yeah.
To one quick scenario, basically, in fundraising, we did a lot of competition type of thing. So I remember I was sitting at home, and National Public Radio in the US was raising funds for, they raise funds every 6 months. And so sitting there, I was wondering why it was not going well enough. So I called the station and I told them, "Is I was in Philadelphia at that time. So let's say, so I told them, let's have a challenge between rest of the world, Penn State and University of Pennsylvania. Yeah, because universities and football, this thing is quite a competitive thing. So by end of the day, the station manager called and said, they met their funding goals 3x
Wow.
just because of the competition. The other thing that we used to do is when we raise money for tsunami, we would have a matching fund. So if you donated $10, somebody will match your $10. And if you match, so some percentage matching we will give. So that would also, it'll propel people to donate more. So I'm not seeing this kind of gamification where interactions are happening between consumers. Then I mean there is a competition to buy it quickly, like you're saying in sale is for one day, but I'm not seeing a me versus you type of thing.
Mhm. Right. Right. So I think to put it, we are moving towards something called as having that social angle to gamification. And in that context, so instead of competing against a user, we are beginning with a little bit of a positive note where we are saying you can gift your rewards to one user. Where let's say if I have won a coupon and I don't want to use it, I can maybe just pass it along. I can send it to a friend, and maybe somebody else can do the same, and this can evolve into a wide variety of features. And just like just thinking out loud here, these are not live today, but this is where we are headed, where let's say and I'm sure you must have come across these features like a message in a bottle, right, where let's say you give this coupon, you just put it in a bottle and somebody will discover it somewhere, and and then maybe you're connected with that user. So those are the kind of things that we are slowly moving towards. And again, I think uh, so initially, I think there was a lot of thinking that we were doing. Today, thankfully, we have a wide variety of customers to guide us and tell us, what are they looking for next, and we tend to listen to them, tend to think what do they need and how can we prioritize it, and then push it as part of a SaaS application.
So yeah, one last question. You probably are aware of game theory and prisoner's dilemma and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
policy bazaar is, for example, tries to help you compare and contrast policies. But then, I think you can gamify that even further by using something like a prisoner's dilemma as to if you chose a policy, what will you lose? That makes you think and makes it pull from one way or the other, or it will increase stickiness for sure. But I think that's it's a little bit of a theory question. I'll take it offline. Yeah.
Right. So, just to, I think just I got here was, I think if you look at the Octalysis framework, they talk about something called as avoidance of loss, and
Mm-hmm.
users don't want to, be in loss, right? And I think
Right.
and that's actually one of the black hat gamification techniques that you use.
Right.
It's in the similar bucket as scarcity, where you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to kind of evoke sort of a negative, not negative emotion, but you're trying to create a sense of aversion.
No, this is perfect because this is Kahneman's work. That's why he got the Nobel Prize. Exactly the point. Okay, great. I'll get off the thing. Get somebody else on. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's
I
a nice
think
one. Yeah.
there's a question from Kirtiman, right? He says one rewards can feel dry for after a certain period for regular users. like, I mean, I use whatever Google Pay sometimes, all of that. They give you some scratch card, and I'm like, I couldn't bother, right? Cred gives you some points. People have
Yeah.
kind of gotten over it, right? And they're like, what use is this anyway, right? So, how do you mix that? I mean, over time, does all of this always fade away? Right? How do you retain that interest? Or is this really good to cause that, okay, a little bit of stickiness so that you have the possibility of a long-term customer, right? I mean,
Hmm.
is that what this is about? So could you just explain that? In fact, it's probably better if Kirtiman comes up and tells you himself. So let me just pull him up and he'll kind of explain what he meant there. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Kirtiman.
Hi,
Yeah.
Prateek. Very good work with the customer group. It's really amazing that how you are bringing gamification to everyday apps, like providing the developers and businesses to integrate gamification with very simple approach. So kudos for that. My question was mainly related to rewards. Keeping the rewards alive. Like for instance, like Iswar said, I also use Google Pay, right? So initially, in the early days, there was a, when I say pay 500 to someone, there was a scratch card, and I was kind of little excited at, hey, what I got this time. Whether it is like the cash reward, whether it's a coupon or whatever it is. After say 1 month of use and regular payments, right now that excitement is not there. Now it's just like a utility app for me, where if I have to make a payment, I would directly do. I want to scroll through to see that if there are any offer or anything going on, right? So that and then sometime I would just switch to Paytm or any other wallet app, because now that retention factor, that there is something new hidden for me there, is no longer, right?
Hmm.
So the surprise element is gone, because now I can more or less I can predict that, okay, if I am going to pay 5,000 to someone, I am going guaranteed to get a scratch card, and that scratch card is having going to give me like 60% of chance to get better luck next time, right? So
Hmm.
there's only 40% probability that I would get a reward, and even I can now predict that that reward would range between 1%, 0.5 to 1% of my total transaction value at max. So for the regular users, if it's a new user, obviously these rewards help to onboard and introduce them to different segment of the app. But for the existing or regular users, what do you suggest to keep rewards, keep them alive and retain using gamification techniques? Obviously,
Right.
leaderboards are one way, but that again doesn't apply to all apps categories.
Right. So, that's so, to answer that question, the very first thing we all need to understand is your users should never be coming back because of rewards. That is the core idea behind gamification. The
Yeah.
user should have, by the time, when you onboard the user and by the time they get into the habit of using your product, right, where let's say you're making payments now, maybe Google Pay is just a click away for you, and you know how easy it is to make payments using Google Pay. So with that whole onboarding and pushing the users and giving them some rewards initially, should essentially push them on a journey of automatically using it again and again. That's the whole idea behind gamification. On the other hand, let's say when I talk about offers, right, and even in Google Pay today, when you use Google Pay, they actually talk about a particular screen. There's a screen which talks about all the rewards that you have, and I'm just trying to pull up Google Pay here on my phone. And what you can see here is if you can see the screen here, it says that there is a certain amount of money that you have won using Google Pay. And the whole idea is that they're trying to remind you constantly that while using Google Pay, uh, how much of uh, how much of value that you have achieved through rewards. And then right now what I'm seeing is that I'm no longer having the same scratch card program. I have essentially a sequence of actions. Of what you can see here essentially is there's this whole sequence of things that you can do here on Google Pay. And this is what keeps your user. So once a user becomes a little loyal, once a user is on the journey, you keep pushing them to do more things, or keep pushing them to do more activities. So for an onboarding journey, you need to have a different kind of a program. For a user who's already crossed onboarding, is already an activated user, you need to have a different program. And for the users who are already loyal, who are already who are transacting almost every day, you need to have a different program. And then for users who are your brand ambassadors, right, who actually bring more users to your app, you need to have a different set of a program and a different gamification strategy to do that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Coming back to the original question again, I think that when it's come to like whale users, right, the reward is not a way to retain them at all, right? You have to do
Mhm.
something exceptional within your app to retain those whale users, so that
Right.
they can, keep spending within your app, or you keep using your app. Right now, what's happening is that if there's everybody is going after the cashback or reward system. I think most of the wallet apps or most of the new Play Store apps, even the messaging apps like Hike now keep sending me a reminder that we have launched a new gaming app called Russ, and we give you 40 rupees bonus. Go ahead, join it. Go ahead, join it. Right. But that is something which can, like you rightly said, that can help users to onboard, right? Gaining new customers. But once there
Mhm.
is a customer, there has to be and a paying customer or a regular user for your app. There has to be a separate set of actions and strategy to retain them in long run, right? So how
Right.
does you handle that scenario with the customer group? Because the sample in your presentation which we saw were
Mhm.
mainly built around the activities to introduce user to app features, right? There wasn't like I'm not sure if I missed, but there wasn't like a engagement rotation, like if I can set up the triggers within the my app which can send a notification to keep user on board, or like how Extreme Push does, for instance.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. So, I'll quickly run you through the different things that we do here at Customer Glue. And I think that should solve it. And of course, this is not all that we do. There's a lot more in the planning and a lot more in works. So I think challenges is something that you have seen, which is what I just showed you, where this could be used for an onboarding program. Once users have completed a certain challenge, they win a certain reward. Similarly, you have these games, right? And what we have observed is when, and you should not be using them all the time. These should be used only at specific, moments. Let's say Diwali comes up, or you're running a sale during New Year's or Christmas. That's when you should be using these, not all the time. If you use them all the time, then they lose their novelty, and the whole thing behind pushing them users to do more, it fades away. Then we have something called as a gamified referrals, where if let's say I'm a high value user, I
Mhm.
can invite more high value users to the app. And here we have a limited number of users you can invite, right? So we don't want the users to just invite almost everyone to install the app, but we want them to invite a user and also push them to make their first transaction, or push them to do the very first critical activity. And we have the features where you can nudge your friends. Let's say if I invited you, right, I can also nudge you that, hey, if you also do this particular activity, then both of us can win this particular scratch card or particular offer. And similarly, another idea to bring in into this context is not every app is today using cashbacks. And I think we should all just check out this app called as Fabulous. They have used the whole non-monetary reward in a really good way, where they don't burn money on users to keep coming back. What they do is they give you this specific graphic with a nice quote around it for you to share around. And I'm sure you must have also used Swiggy a lot. What Swiggy is doing these days is if you place an order, you get this slot machine program, right? Most of the times, most of us don't win anything. But what happens is when you don't win anything, they end or they give you this particular quote or a small graphic, which you can still share around, which is also sort of a reward. Better than better luck next time. Similarly, we also have dynamic loyalty programs in place. Once your users are onto a cadence where you know that they're already doing a lot more, then you can start pushing them to do just daily check-in, just open the app every day, do a bunch of activities that lead you to earn more points and get more perks, which you can slowly merge into things like build your own loyalty program, build your own subscription program around your e-commerce or your app-enabled business. And then lastly, especially for e-commerce businesses, we have something called as a flash sale, where with your products, we can figure out which are the best products for your users to purchase and what is a discount which we can give where we're not losing out on money that we could have actually saved for the businesses. So this is again another feature which helps us to bring out that profitability. So it is not just one or two things, but you essentially end up using a combination of various techniques and psychologies to drive the right kind of user behavior.
Got it. Yep. Got it. That makes sense. Thanks, Pratik, for the insights and detailed explanation.
Right. Just let's catch up over LinkedIn at any time. Feel free to reach out and we can grab a coffee or virtual coffee. I think that's the charm these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pratik, I mean, one question, because I think people talked about cred. So cred is kind of we use on other third-party portals now. So they recently launched with a couple of e-commerce portals where you can actually go in and cash that. But my question is, do you see reward points?
Yeah, I think we lost you, Ajay.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking,
Or maybe
am I back? Yeah. Yeah. So my question was, do you see loyalty points aggregation as an opportunity, a large opportunity, because people have multiple points, and there might be one or two players who will aggregate and convert them into some monetizable or digital, metric or digital commodity. Is that an opportunity you see? Because
Uh,
you might also do this at an engine level, like whole you can give companies to convert all of their pending reward points as credit points or some XYZ brand points. So
right, right.
is that an opportunity a platform sees, or is that an opportunity you see coming up in the market because people have so and so travel points, so and so food points. So is that an opportunity?
I think that's and if I get it right, I think that's already happening. So if I look at companies like Payback, right, they end up doing this where you might be having a credit card from a particular business, from a particular bank, and you can earn these payback points. If you make purchases from a particular store, then you get payback points, which you can
Yeah.
redeem into something. So having that broad set of that umbrella loyalty program, I think that's already out there in the world, and I'm sure. Even companies, for example, let's say Jet Airways has a particular frequent flyer program. I think a lot of businesses tend to associate themselves with that, and then you can collect these air miles through different activities, and then you can use them to make different purchases via their platform. So some of these things are already happening. But yeah, I mean, and again, I'm just thinking out loud here. If you want to add, blockchain to it, add some sort of ETH token to it, I think maybe there's something that can be done there.
Yeah. So eventually, if everybody has a common tracking platform, it can be like Google Analytics, who has data across applications and website. So they are still they can still kind of generate. I know, because we might not spend money, we'll still spend time on these applications, and one or two platforms can actually aggregate the behavior and credit points. So is that something which you think can happen?
Right. So but I think what I see is that today businesses want to keep their users do and make them do things on their own businesses, right? And that's a core idea behind the gamification, the way we are approaching it today. But yes, I mean, if someone wants to launch the whole gamification piece from the user standpoint, where let's say if they launch a B2C application where users can come in and they can track these different points or convert them for making purchases, etc. Sure, I'm sure there could be an opportunity, but I think it's already a pretty crowded space. There are many players out there. The
Yeah, I
biggest
see
problem today, yeah,
a couple of Chrome plugins actually asking you to install, and they kind of give you coupons based on the sites you visit. Yeah.
right, right. So there are platforms like Honey, and I think they have done it quite well. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just bringing up the last kind of question. I think we kind of crossed our 8 o'clock kind of timeline, right? But the last audience question, Charlton, or do you want to just? I'm trying to hand over the mic. I'm not sure if it's getting handed over because I don't see you on stage. Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you're still around. Maybe you can just raise your hand again. I can try and. Okay, I think he's having a to gamify something is to change user behavior. In that context, what are your ideas to gamify a fitness application? Do you want to
yeah.
just kind of throw some ideas out there for fitness?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've come across this wonderful app, and they were one of our customers. And what they did essentially, and it's a fitness app. So, for every push-up that you do, using the application, they can track these push-ups, and that converts into a blockchain token. They launch their own Bitcoin currency around it. So users can essentially do push-ups and earn Bitcoins. So not Bitcoin, sorry. They had their own token. They had their own. I'm forgetting the name. It was called something, but it was their own fitness token. That is one of the examples that I think I can share like right away. But yeah, of course, I think leading users through breadcrumbs is very important. Collecting that initial information on what the user type is, and I think when fitness, right? I think it was just New Year, so all of us want to be fit. I think that's a universal generic goal that all of us have. The problem that why most of us fail at it is it's very hard to be persistent at it. You buy gym subscriptions, and that's why they sell annual subscriptions, because they know that users are not going to come in after the first month, right? Even after first few weeks. At least that's what has happened to me like multiple times. But yeah, I mean that is how I think it goes. I think baby steps, leading users to do things and then reward them for the right behavior. Fabulous is a great example. I think you should definitely check out Fabulous app. It pushes users to build great habits, and I think if they would be definitely something that you would find very useful there, Charlie.
Awesome. I think you just made Charlton's day. so, so here we go. I think any final thoughts, Prateek? I mean, it's been an absolutely amazing, insightful session. Thanks to you, Ajay. Thanks to you, Prateek. But I'll just kind of leave the floor open for any last, if you have to summarize key takeaways on gamification, like if you had to summarize, like what can the audience take away in like the next 1 or 2 minutes, do you want to take a shot at that, as the most important takeaways, right?
Right. Sure. I think for any business that's launching out there, figure out what's that particular activity that makes your users really use a platform. And second thing is retention can only be achieved if you have a great product. And if your users really find value in that, even if you apply cashbacks and various techniques, scratch cards, whatnot, but if the core value prop is not there, then users won't come back again for that value. The whole idea behind gamification is to push the users to realize the value as soon as possible.
Nice, nice. That's really kick-ass, saying that, obviously you need a great product and you're just accelerating their experience or the usage of the product using gamification, right? Their experience of the product using gamification. Really, really cool. Hey, thanks, Pradeep. Thank you, Ajay, for for preparing for this session, kind of prodding Prateek on various aspects of gamification. Prateek, if you could give people some of those frameworks in the chat window. I mean, you see the chat window there. Anything
Right.
you mentioned an Oculus framework. I'm not sure if people know the exact spelling. Any framework, anything that you suggest as reading material, sharing a link, that would be great. I don't know if there's a blog that you read or that you suggest, right? Or a book even, right? So you mentioned the hook, and you mentioned a few others. So yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think this will be a great place for people to start. Uh, yeah, with everything on this. Perfect. I'm going to
Right.
take a break on this session. Ajay, thank you again.
Yeah,
Prateek, thank you
pleasure.
again. We're going to circulate this video, and hopefully a lot more people take a lot more things away as well. Right. Thanks a lot. We're taking a break, guys.
Yeah.
Catch you in another session.
Right.
Sorry,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you so much, everyone, and it was great meeting all of you. I look forward to speaking more in the future. Yeah.
Awesome.